Welcome to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I am Tammi Mack on Fox Soul. 37.2 million people in this country live below the poverty line. And out of that number, 19.5% are African Americans. Us, y'all. And when it comes to poverty in the Black community, it has created disparities in education, crime, housing, and much more. But is poverty a means to keep Black Americans from achieving upward mobility, or is it simply a mindset holding us back from being successful? Let's get down to business. Please welcome minister and author Dante Stewart. Hi, Dante.
Hey, Tammy. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being here. Author and philanthropist Megan McGlover. Hi, Megan.
Hey, Tammy. Thanks for having me on.
South Carolina congressional candidate for the 6th District, my main man, Greg Marcel Dixon.
Oh, Tammy, thank you for having me back.
Thank you for being here. And the executive director of Live Free, we've got Pastor Mike McBride with us. Hi, Pastor.
Mr. Tammy, great to be here with you one more time.
All right, I want to stick to you because, you know, Black community always talking about the pastors taking money. That ain't what this show is about, but we are talking money here, Pastor. So I want to ask, why should Black people care about poverty being a mindset?
Well, we ought to make sure we're being very clear about what we're talking about. Poverty, in my mind, cannot be a mindset if we're actually measuring the amount of resources and capital our communities have on hand, both in our families and in our neighborhoods. There is a whole poverty index. The government measures poverty in our community. And so I think we ought to be very clear about what we talk about. I think poverty is a result of systemic and structural exclusion that is grounded in history, that is anti-Black. It is targeted towards our communities at every level. And so I do hope that we can continue to not be so hard on ourselves and so easy on the system.
So poverty is real. We are not in the matrix.
No, it is as real as you and I being Black. Touch your neighbor.
Okay, now, Megan, why should Black people care about poverty being a mindset?
Well, you need to care about it if you care about yourself. The good preacher would acknowledge that money is important, which is why a lot of preachers are preaching because they're tax exempt. Money is important. So you have to make sure that if you are going to be successful in any way of your life, you have to be able to be a part of society. That includes paying bills and taking care of your children and taking care of yourself and education and so forth and so on. That all takes money. So Black people should care just as much as the Asian community or the Caucasians or anybody else.
Pastor, you need to put your sunglasses on. Megan throwing shade in the first 10 seconds of the show. What is up with that?
I'm just not throwing any shade. I'm not throwing any shade at all. Okay, I'm just stating facts. Okay, we here. This is the business of being Black. We got to state.
Indeed, it is, sis. Indeed, it is.
That's all. That's all. We
all Marcel, why should Black people care about poverty being a mindset?
Well, because poverty means access to resources. And for one, America measures poverty incorrectly. They measure poverty by income, but wealth is measured by assets, things that appreciate. And we know, being that this is the richest nation in the world, it will not be that way if not for Black Americans that built it and defended it. So the fact that we are to the bottom in every measure of a quality of life shows that we should care, because we have not yet gotten what we are due, but we will.
Dante, I leave it to you to ask my traditional question on the business of being Black. This is where we be Black. Why should we care?
I think in many of our experiences, we know how much that particular framework has done damage within our own psyche, our own souls, within our own communities, within our churches. And I think we Black folks should care because of the damage that's been done. You know, I think this question presupposes, you know, this experience of whether one is impoverished or not. And if we're like thinking about historically speaking and contextually speaking, so many Black folk that we live around every day believe that poverty is a mindset, and they are preached to it week in and week out. And it's on so many of us to have those conversations if we're going to actually liberate ourselves from that destructive mindset and actually do the things that's necessary to make sure that we'll hold people getting what we deserve in this country, as others have said, that we have built and have continually sustained.
So you're saying we have to get out of the mindset that poverty is a mindset.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I think when you're talking about politics and religion or lived experiences, our lives are lived in a multitude of areas. We live, in our psyches. We live in this society, and we think about that mindset and how destructive it's been. More than anything, more than just the material conditions, we need to talk about our psychological disposition to ourselves. As Pastor McBride so brilliantly said, it is anti-Black because it blames and shames us as the arbiters of our own conditions and blames our mind, our internal worlds, as, in some sense, as the actual kind of arbiter of our own struggle. And I think that's pretty anti-Black to blame us for a situation we didn't put ourselves in.
It's kind of like the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. said. It's kind of like what the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. said. He said it's a little unfair to ask someone with no boots to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, right?
100%.
Oh, indeed.
Megan, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ask a question. Is God anti-Black? Because it sure enough says in the Bible, as a man thinketh. So are you saying to me that the thoughts and the mindset that you have nothing to do with the way in which your life is going to turn out? Is that what we're saying here?
No, I wouldn't grab that scripture to apply to this conversation per se.
So we're only picking and choosing what it's going to apply to.
Well,
so
allow him to complete his thought so that we can see what his answer is to your question, Megan.
Okay.
I think you just picked and choose the scripture. So yes, that is part of the challenge. I do think that often we are so hard on ourselves in an ahistorical manner. It is the case that Black folks in this country literally have a median wealth of $24,000 a year versus $189,000 for white households. There is no scripture that can excuse that disparity. That is a result of centuries of targeted policies that have locked Black people into a permanent economic, not moral or values underclass, an economic underclass. So if we're going to talk about scripture, let's use all the scriptures in the Bible that talk about justice and redistribution of wealth. Let's not use the scriptures to beat up on poor, under-resourced, and economically disadvantaged folks by the system to make us feel
Pastor,
as if—
can you give us a couple of those scriptures?
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. The scriptures talk in the all around that says that the year of Jubilee. I don't know if you all have heard of the year of Jubilee. At the year of 50, every 50 years, you are supposed to literally take the wealth that is extra in your own life and spread it out amongst the community so there is no lack in the community. And that is a social economic policy that was critical to the people of the book. And so I think when we read the scriptures through an individualistic capitalist framework, we can pull a scripture out and say it's about the people when it is actually about the systems. And Jesus came into systems that were whacking. He flipped the tables over. That wasn't because their mindset was bad. It's because the people who were exploiting the folks in the temple needed to get their stuff shut down. I wish I had a church.
Is this year of Jubilee not done with welfare and Section 8?
No,
it is not.
No, wait a minute. You have millions of people.
Let Megan get her thought out here. I got you, Marcel.
Thank you. You have millions of African Americans in particular. Now we're talking about African Americans. We could talk about other people because other people are also on welfare. But we have millions of Black people, African Americans, that are on welfare on Section 8 and have been for 3 and 4 generations straight in a row. So now you're saying to me that there's supposed to be an extra year of Jubilee? Now, I'm not saying in any way that you don't give people their just due, but to sit here and act as if the mindset has nothing to do with 3 and 4 generations of consistent welfare assistance is absolutely ridiculous. Because if that's the case, you would not have people like Ben Carson. You would not have people like Walter Peterson, Dr. Walter Peterson, you would have people like Dr. Thomas Sowell. The mindset has to come in at some point because you do have actual systems in place to help you achieve, but people are using the system but not achieving.
Marcel.
Okay, so let's talk. I agree with Megan. It is the mindset of the people who make the policies. They are the people with the mindset that has caused poverty. You want to talk about the millions of Black Americans on welfare in Section 8? The fact of the matter is, let's ask ourselves a question. From where did white Americans get their wealth? Tell you where. They got it from the 4 Homestead Acts, when they were giving away land for people to move from England to what will become the U.S. When Abraham Lincoln signed the Homestead Act of 1862 to help white Americans move into the Midwest, he gave away trillions of dollars worth of land to white Americans. The Southern Homestead Act that gave land to white Americans. There were white Americans that were given land in Virginia and North Carolina after the Revolutionary War. Black Americans who built the railroads, the cities, were excluded from that. Black Americans, through it all, were able to build up Black Wall Streets and own 16 million acres of property. Guess what happened to it? The federal government sat back and allowed it to be stolen from them and allowed their Black Wall Streets and the trillions of dollars to go down the drain. So when we want to talk about mindset, it ain't the mindset of the Black Americans. It's the mindset of the government that gave wealth to white Americans and at the same time violently keeping Black Americans from the wealth that we are still owed in the form of reparations. That's
on that note, I think we'll take a quick break, cool down a little bit, and get our mindsets right on the business of being Black with Tammi Mack on Fox Soul. We'll be back. Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I'm Tammi Mack, and the business of being Black today is the poverty mindset of Black people. Or is it a mindset at all? Is this thing real? What are your thoughts when you hear the argument of why should the government be forced to spend billions of dollars to people, or, give billions of dollars to people who won't even lift themselves up by their bootstraps? They won't even help themselves. Why should the government come in with all this welfare and Section 8? And why? Why, Dante?
Well, I think when we're thinking about a government's purpose, a government is instituted to be there for the welfare of the people. I am a military family, and I gladly accept dental care and health care for what our family does for this country. And I even think the premise of that question presupposes that there are people out there who actually do not want to do anything for themselves. And for me, I have a problem with that type of language, as I come from a place in rural South Carolina where we, live in a community that's not just disadvantaged, but we live in a rural community, and I'm come from a rural community that's intentionally disadvantaged. And I think, a government has a responsibility to care for its citizens, and the government shouldn't be forced to do that. It should desire to do that, as it does for those who continue to serve our nation in more ways than simply than one. And so that's kind of where I land on that question.
Pastor Mike.
And the government.
Absolutely. Don't we pay taxes? I mean, this idea that.
What if I don't want my money going to other people? What if I wanted to go to the roads and the schools?
Well, I want to argue that none of us get the opportunity to pay our taxes and then not care for the least of these that are around us. You don't get to determine who drives on the roads. You don't get to determine who goes to the schools. This is our duty, particularly as a person of faith. I want to say this is my duty. This is the cost of being a neighbor, of being in a community. And we ought to, continue to expand, I believe, the social net, raise the basement of poverty using our tax dollars, because if we don't use it for the people, then we're actually using it to destroy people, whether it is at home or abroad. Either the tax dollars are building up safer and healthy, vibrant communities, or they're literally tearing them down.
Megan, a lot of people talk about generational wealth. What I heard you talk about earlier in the show is generational poverty. You have generations who have come out of the system, or not even come out of the system, but continue to remain there, receiving welfare, receiving Section 8 housing, receiving WIC.
Well, I think that before we went to break, what Greg said was actually true. Policymakers have put in place a crutch that has not helped, but have broken our communities, in particular the African American community. This is why the mindset is so important, because if you depend on the government to help you, you're depending on your enemy 110%. These policies were put in place to break the African American. And the more you have your hand out, the more your fingers are going to continue to get cut. This is just 110% the truth.
Marcel, she says, why take from the enemy? I've never heard it put that way, but why? Why would you take from the enemy, from the man?
Well, if Megan owes me $50 and I go to Megan and say, I want my $50, I ain't taking from you. You're giving me what you owe me. Okay. And I'm sorry, Dante and Brother Mike, I appreciate everything y'all are saying, but y'all being a little too nice. Okay, it ain't have nothing to do with no tax dollars. America has done major programs before to lift white Americans out of poverty. Have we forgotten about the Wagner Act, which really shepherded labor unions, which allowed the payroll of white Americans to soar, gave them health care, gave them pensions? Are we forgetting about the GI Bill? My great-grandfather, South Carolinian, I'm down here in South Carolina too, Gullah Geechee, born and bred. My great-grandfather is a World War II vet. He is still alive, 98 years of age. When the GI Bill was passed, white veterans got trillions of dollars. They got homes, they got free college education, they got health care, they got pension, they opened businesses. Black veterans were denied those trillions, and they fought alongside those white veterans. So this country can do big sweeping programs to lift people out of poverty. They do it with white Americans all the time. But Black Americans whom they owe, when we are saying, pay us what you owe us, it's called a handout. No, the American government is the system that's gotten the handout from Black Americans. And now we're saying, pay us for it.
But that's not actually what's going on with African Americans. Because if that's the case, then y'all would have waited and went with what Ice Cube was trying to do in this last election. Instead, you sat up there and twerked for Biden. Now you want to sit up here and say, oh, well, somebody owes us something? You gotta be kidding me.
Wait a minute. I only twerk for my fiance. And second of all, I hate Joe Biden. He's an anti-Black bigot segregationist, and I am running for Congress on a reparations platform that goes way beyond what Ice Cube was trying to do. So, Megan, I'm not going to be those check my work type people, but check my work.
But Megan, I do want to ask you, I want to ask Megan real quick, though. Marcel makes some points, and this is in general as well. But it seems that America always has some type of controversy or issue when it comes to helping Black people. For instance, the Black farmers during the pandemic, everyone wanted to know why the Black farmers had to get the money. Well, they had been passed over because they were giving all of the funds to white farmers during the pandemic. And so it always seems to be an issue when Black people are getting something. It's turned into this salacious thing that's horrible, that makes us look like lazy pickaninnies. However, when the rest of the country gets funds or gets compensated or gets what they are owed, there is no communication or controversy around it. It's like, oh, we're good Americans. We're doing the right thing. Why is that, Megan?
You know, I don't know why it is, to be honest with you, because I'm still trying to figure out why $52 billion has gone to Ukraine. So you're 100% correct. I don't know why that is. And what I'm saying is that we as a people, as Black people, instead of saying the same thing over and over again, and I want to take this opportunity to say congratulations to Greg, because you are actually doing something in the right direction.
Thank you.
To keep saying over and over and over again that you are owed something, but then put into a place to take it, you push back and say, well, no, just give us another Black person in the Supreme Court. Oh, wait a minute, no, just give us another. We have over 10,000 Black people in politics right now.
Let me let Pastor Mike tap in on this.
We are still dealing with what you just said. How is it possible that you have 10,000? You got Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson been doing this since I've been alive, and you're sitting around here talking about the same thing?
Well, it's because the system don't go to sleep. The system don't go to sleep because you got some black people in office. Let us remember that since the 1960s to about 2010, before the foreclosure crisis, we had a generation of black wealth stolen in 2 years. 50 years of generational black wealth was built by doing what you said, Sister Megan. And in 2 years, the system literally robbed us. The banks robbed us. The SEC folks robbed us. And so it's really important for us to appreciate that even when black people do what you say we should do, the government contorts itself to rob us of the resources that we have actually done by the rules. And that is not even taking into account that even with us playing by the rules, the wealth gap continues to grow because of exploitation in the economic system that is at play.
Megan is right, though. Megan, I get what you're saying. Now I'm getting you. You're right. I get what you're saying now. It is a mindset when it comes to us politically, because Biden simply told us that if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. This is the bigot who have locked up more black people in prison than since the days of chattel slavery. And what happened? Clyburn here in South Carolina got his behind up there and endorsed that man who worked with Ku Klux Klan members to keep black kids out of better funded schools. And what did black people do? They went right there and put Biden in, and now they want to act surprised that he wants to give illegal immigrants $450,000 in reparations, while black Americans, he says, I'll think about it. So Megan does have a point. We have failed as black Americans to hold politicians who are supposed to represent us accountable, because some of us just want a black face. Crown with a black face. Give me black policies.
Okay, let me go to Dante here. In what ways, Dante, has the government forced generations of African Americans into poverty?
Well, I think when we're thinking historically, I think there's so many semblance of truth in whatever everybody is saying. I think we have to take into account the reality that the American government is oftentimes an ungovernable. But then we also have to account for that representation does very little if it's not also offsetted or empowered by different structures of power dynamics. And so we also do have to account that this is a country that we all live in. And so when we're talking about, there's a way, I think when I think about Martin Luther King, and where do we go from here? There's a way to hold tension of who do we represent when it comes to public and public policy, while also holding our government accountable. But we also have to realize that life is also not lived simply regarding what policy is instituted, but it is also about the ways in which we black Americans make life, even in spite of this white supremacist social construct. And so I think we do have to account for that tension that we black Americans stand within. It's easy to argue, who is not doing what or what's not doing what. We're not ever going to come to a conclusion on that, but we should do whatever.
No.
Hold that thought, Marcel. Hold that thought. When we come back, we are going to dig down deep and even dirtier, if we could possibly get more, on this topic of poverty. You kind of hate the word. It just doesn't feel good coming off your mouth, does it? We'll be right back on Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I'm Tammi Mack, and I'm loving the conversation of poverty being a mindset, yay or nay. But aside from financial mindsets, mentally, many things can stress you. Let's have some real talk. 100. How well would you take care of your car if you had to keep the same one your entire life? Well, that's how our brains work, right? So why don't we treat them that way? How we care for our minds affects how we experience life. So it's important to invest time and care into keeping them healthy. There are plenty of ways to support a healthy brain, like learning a new language or taking power naps. Ooh, I love a power nap. There's also BetterHelp online therapy. BetterHelp, that's HELP, is online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat only therapy. Yeah. live chat only therapy sessions. So you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in less than 48 hours. Look, if you're like me, you need someone to talk to. Times have been tough, prices have been high, jobs have been lost, and being cautious of pandemics is enough to stress us all out, y'all. I feel it daily. And I want to make sure I'm dealing not only with my physical and spiritual needs, but my mental needs too. Yeah. With BetterHelp Online Therapy, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so you won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room as with traditional therapy. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change therapists if needed. BetterHelp is a great way. Such a great way to show up for yourself and invest in your well-being because, well, you deserve it, right? Yeah. Visit BetterHelp. That's HELP.com/BOBB. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP. And join the over 2 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. And I have a special offer just for my viewers. Get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/BOBB. And that's the business of being Black with Tammi Mack. We'll be back. Welcome back to The Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I'm Tammi Mack. Please welcome minister and author Dante Stewart to the show today. Author and philanthropist Megan McGlover, South Carolina congressional candidate for the 6th District, Greg Marcel Dixon, and the executive director of Live Free, Pastor Mike McBride, all here to talk about the business of being Black, which is poverty. Is it a mindset in the African American community? Is it a mindset is the question at hand. Look, according to research, Black Americans who are born poor are less likely to move up the economic ladder than other racial groups, especially their white peers. What attributes to this, do you believe, Pastor Mike?
Redlining, sharecropping, predatory loans, the predatory nature of capital in this country disproportionately targets our communities. So even the progress we would make is often taken from us by all of these predatory systems that are at work in our life. And so I do believe that if we want to talk about mindset, we also have to talk about the forces that literally beat down on the sensibilities of our communities and our loved ones who are attempting every day to make an honest wage, make their ends meet, but are constantly finding their lives interrupted and preyed upon by these same very systems.
Yeah, Dante, how is it that white people in poverty and on government assistance can pull themselves up by the bootstraps, but not necessarily Black people so much?
I don't think that is a reality, though, that such white people actually are, quote unquote, pulling themselves up by their own bootstraps. I think that question fails to take into account the particular class structures that exist in this society. And even as we're thinking about bootstraps, I think there is a colloquialism and a story that, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. I think that construct, this whole kind of bootstrap philosophy, fails to take into account the fact of the matter that you live in what happens when you live in a poison pond, and those who control the system are actually putting in policies where your communities are more policed by the wardens, and then your communities have diseased fish, therefore y'all are sicker and you die quicker and you die more, and the hospital is miles away, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we have to start talking about this kind of systemic, structural poverty that multitude of communities are faced with, whether one is native Black to this country, or one is immigrant, or one is poor white and living in rural South Carolina, or living in rural Georgia. We all have that same class structure. Of course, race challenges that, and that at least one is not, quote unquote, Black. But we also have to account that I don't think white people, quote unquote, are pulling themselves up by their own bootstraps. We need to start talking about why is this pond so diseased and why our fish rise so broken, and how can we change that so that wealth can be distributed more equitably and just in this society.
Marcel, why is our pond poisoned?
It's poisoned because the government poisoned it. Let me tell you something about white Americans. White Americans have always, we talk about the government being our enemy. White Americans have taken up arms against the American government more than any other racial ethnic group. And I ain't talking about that January 6th insurrection. I'm talking about from Bacon's rebellions to the Civil War. And what did the government do every time? They rewarded white Americans. Okay, with all the stuff I've already said, no poor white American ever had to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Uncle Sam came along and pulled them up. Black Americans have never fought against the government. We've only fought for our freedom, what we were owed, and we've always gotten the most brutal, despicable treatment. But as Megan said, we have to take some responsibility ourselves because we keep putting back these same Black faces like a James Clyburn, whose district is the 6th poorest in the United States of America after 30 years of him being there. It's majority Black. We could easily get rid of him and put in better people, and we keep putting him in there and then complain about the impoverished conditions we face. What we as Black Americans need to do is get on code and demand reparations, something this government has done for Japanese Americans, Native Americans, Holocaust survivors, World War II prisoners of war and Guam, radiation exposure victims. They definitely need to do it for Black Americans, but we have to demand it.
Pastor Mike, how can being born into poverty impact one's self-esteem?
Well, what we know is that the more poverty your community reflects, you have a disproportionate amount of violence, particularly gun violence. It impacts literally your mind, your heart, your physiological maturation process. We know also that if you are living in an impoverished community, you are likely more breathing toxic air. You have an education system that is disinvested, if not totally bankrupt. And so all of these things in your environment are reinforcing a substandard quality of life. We are not machines. We are individuals with senses, 5 senses all around us. And so these things penetrate our sense of self and our sense of value. This is why I believe this conversation, of course, we should talk about our mindset, but we ought not talk about ourselves with such disparaging descriptions as if we're just sitting around here not making an effort to change our worst conditions. We are a people that have constantly been under attack, and we ought to, I think, have more compassion for our communities who are literally surviving attacks while we're on TV talking about poverty being a mindset.
I can agree with that, but I do want to say this. I saw an interview or a conversation, I think it was more of, with Mike Tyson, boxing champion Mike Tyson, and Saturday Night Live cast member Kenan Thompson. And Mike Tyson referred to himself as the N-word. Kenan Thompson said, "No, you are not." Mike Tyson said, "You haven't lived in my shadow. You don't know my shadow. You don't know me." So I wonder, Megan, someone who has made all of this money, millions upon millions of dollars, who still considers himself the N-word and still lives beneath his own shadows, could his mindset have been the reason he lost all of his money and took the downturn that he took?
Absolutely, 110%. Because see, this is what we're not really facing. And the facts are that when we were at our poorest, when we got out of slavery, see this whole idea that we're talking down upon each other or we're being hard on each other is a big, humongous excuse. The truth of the matter is that when we had our own Wall Street, our own Black Wall Street, when we owned our own dry cleaners, when we owned our own cab companies, bus companies, this and that and the other, no one was being soft on each other. You had to get up. You had to do what you had to do. You had to get your education. You had to make sure that you were responsible for your family and for yourself. Now you want to turn into a marshmallow all of a sudden and say, well, we just got to be a little kinder to ourselves. No, we have to be responsible, point blank, period. Because when we were at our poorest is when we were more capable of being responsible for ourselves. So it is.
When we were at our poorest, we were being lynched. When we were at our poorest, we were being lynched. We were at our poorest. We were having our homes taken. No. I think no.
He does have a point here, Megan. He does have a point. Go ahead, Pastor. Go ahead, Pastor.
The point of the civil rights movement was not so we could drink coffee next to white boy Johnny. It was so we could have self-determination, right? And you seem to forget that the same system that was keeping us from having self-determination, all of a sudden it went to sleep. It ramped up its attacks on our people. So what I'm saying is I don't meet black people, too many black people who are just sitting here not doing the best they can. Even Pookie and Ray Ray, who's on the street, figure out how to make their ends meet. They're doing it the best that they can. We should tell the truth to one another and say that some strategies are worse than others. But let us not forget, we are the only people in this country who constantly wake up and go to sleep every day. And there is a system designed to cripple us, rob us, and kill us with no accountability.
Tammi, can I ask a question?
What response do you expect black people to have when we are unprotected in this community? I don't get it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Brother Mike and Dante, y'all keep making points that I completely agree with. So why are y'all so afraid to mention that the federal government and these so-called black leaders we have owes Black American reparations? They can pay it because they send in almost $1 trillion to Ukraine, so they can definitely pay Black Americans reparations. So if y'all want to talk about all the things that Black Americans are owed, why are you not holding these so-called black politicians who's supposed to represent us, who depend on us to get in office, accountable? I have not heard y'all mention that.
Well,
yet.
Marcel, I have to say, Marcel, this is not a show on reparations, which is probably why they haven't mentioned that. They haven't said whether they were for or against reparations. It's not the topic. The topic at hand is the poverty mindset.
That gets rid of poverty, though.
But let me just say to you, brother Marcel, you should check my resume like you told Sister Megan.
Okay,
Not only am I a part of the reparations work, we helped to get it to where it is today. I'm also for debt forgiveness. I'm also for guaranteed income, interest-free loans. There are strategies that we ought to continue to advocate for, but all I'm saying is we can get all of these strategies and our mindset can be shifted and changed as it needs to. We are people that should always be evolving, but we cannot discount that there is a disproportionate attack on our people that the mindset alone will not
with our mindset. Hold on, Megan, I don't think anything's wrong with our mindset. Here's why I'm gonna prove you wrong. One, a poor white American, you see, Tammi, like I said in the beginning, it's the way we measure poverty in this country. Wealth is measured by assets, land ownership. A poor white American is far, far, far more likely to own land, even if you want to say things like trailer trash, they own that land and they've owned it for centuries. Black Americans like me, my family's owned land since the Port Royal experiment, but it's heirs property, so we don't get a dime from it. So my poor white neighbors, they have more wealth, even though I might make more income. And by the way, Brother Mike, I am in poverty, so I think I'm on TV, Greg Marcel Dixon's doing well. So I just want to say that too.
But I just want to say we don't own land.
Hold that thought, Megan. I'm gonna let Pastor get his thought out, and I'm coming straight to you.
I just want to say we don't own land because we don't get access to capital. That
was stolen from us.
Or it was stolen.
Pastor Mike, I have to agree with Marcel on this. We don't have land because it was stolen.
100%. But even I agree with that. And we can't get new land because we don't get access to capital.
Okay, there we go.
That is not a mindset issue.
Full circle here. Yes, Megan, go ahead.
There are thousands upon thousands of houses and land that have tax liens on it. You can get a house for $500 if you go to Gary, Indiana, and Detroit, and so forth and so on. So I don't want to hear about that. But I will say this to you. If you do not fix your mindset and they give you hundreds of thousands of dollars per family, you will end up like Dave Chappelle did in that skit, buying chicken and Cadillac Escalades if you do not fix your mindset. It is not 110%. It is not only that you have to get something from the government or get something from white people. If you do not fix the mindset, this is why you have black on black crime. This is why poverty people.
Well, that's why I asked you that, and Megan, for that reason, For that reason, Megan, is why I ask you the Mike Tyson question. Exactly. So that we wouldn't have to make comparisons to chicken and Cadillacs. We're going to.
What I'm saying is, well, let me finish what I'm saying. What I'm saying
I can't let you finish because now we got to go to break.
We got to go. Poverty mindset is what is causing all the crime and so forth. You have to change the mindset before you can even get the money. If not, it's going to be holes in your pocket.
We have to heal our people.
There are going to be holes in my pocket if I don't get to this commercial break, y'all. So let's take this break and come right back.
Black on black crime is a myth. Black on black crime is a myth.
Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I'm Tammi Mack. The business of being Black is a poverty mindset. Is it running rampant in the Black community? Politician Ben Carson, who grew up in poverty to become a neurosurgeon, once said people with the right mindset can have everything taken away from them and they will pull themselves up. But in the same respect, you take somebody with the wrong mindset and give them everything in the world, and they will work their way right back down to the bottom. Dante, is this so?
Not necessarily. I think mindset accounts for only part of the reason why people struggle and fail when they reach a sort of level of influence. I played football in college, and on that level of playing ball in college, of course, your mindset is a part of it. But also, if I'm a freshman, I ain't getting the same type of reps as somebody who's a senior. And so we can't just make this kind of blanket statement, especially somebody like Ben Carson or people in his position who, if you look at every step of their journey, they didn't necessarily just pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. And if any of us look at our journeys, none of us, whether you're white or Black, gay or straight, none of us really pull ourselves up by our own bootstrap. We're a reflection of the people who invest in us and the communities that love us. And so to think about to say that it's only the mindset that damages a person only accounts for a very minute part of that. And I would rather people tell their own stories of their own lives rather than somebody who's not around them telling their stories for them.
So on that note, I love a great debate. So let's have one. Let's head into a lightning round. So Megan, you got first dibs at this. I want to know, is poverty a mindset, yay or nay?
Yes, it is. 110%, because even if you're not pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, somebody else is helping you or the system is helping you, you have to be ready and be prepared for that help. Look at Mystical, he just got arrested again. Look at Kodak Black, he just got arrested again. You have to be prepared in your mind and you have to be ready in your mind for that help with your own bootstraps. But you're the one wearing the boots.
Pastor Mike, I'm thinking about the poor people who don't have no boots on. Okay,
Pastor your sandals, your slides, your flip flops, whatever it is.
I'm thinking about this folks too, Sister Tammi. I think it would be foolish for us to say that your mind is not an important part of every aspiration you want to have. But we're talking about poverty. We're not talking about anything else in this conversation. And the reality is, poverty is structuralized. It is not the weather. It doesn't just happen. It is a plan. It is a scheme, and it is a result of systems. And so, no, poverty is not a mindset. Poverty is a structured reality as a result of predatory capitalism in this country. Pretty much someone is creating the conditions to keep poverty a reality. And that is because of our mindset.
Marcel, let's have it.
It's measured by your access to resources. Resources are tangible. So no, it's not a mindset. White Americans were given their wealth by the government to the point where even a poor white American has more wealth than a college-educated, full-time employed Black professional. So poverty is not a mindset, and reparations are owed to Black Americans, point blank, period. And Black on black crime is a myth.
I was about to tap into that one for you. I was about to tap into that one for you, bro. And Black on black crime is a myth. Yes, it's a myth. Dante.
Yeah, it's a myth because you don't say it when white people commit it.
No.
Then just say white on white crime, white on white crime, red on red crime, blue on blue crime, pink on pink crime.
No,
we'll have another show for that, Megan. Dante, we're in the midst of a lightning round here. So Dante, it's on you. Is poverty a mindset? Yes or no?
No, poverty is not something you have. It is something you are forced to exist in. So. That's it. That's all I got for you.
That's all you got for me?
That's my lightning rod.
You like, that was lightning. That was quick. You stuck to the plan, right? You stuck to the plan. Is there a way, I would like to know, is there a way that America can be poverty free? Does that even exist?
Yes.
Does that exist? Dante, I'm gonna leave it on you, Dante.
That's a tough one, because I don't think history gives us any kind of reason to believe that that is the case, because, you know, the people who want to keep this world in a structure of injustice and disenfranchisement and oppression have way more power to make those decisions for our lives rather than everyday, average, ordinary Americans. And so, no, I don't think that America can be poverty free, but I do believe that ordinary Americans can fight for a more loving and just nation.
Pastor Mike, is there a way for America to be poverty free?
Not in its current construction. And that is why freedom fighters like Martin Luther King Jr. and Ella Baker built these powerful networks of organizing campaigns to create the world as it should be, not as it is. I do believe there are economic systems out here that could produce more, outcomes that reduce poverty, but it can't happen in its current form. And that is why we must keep voting, vote for better candidates, have folks run for office, and then be a good steward in the office. There are many things that we can do to make this country less.
Tell us about Live Free. Tell us about Live Free.
Live Free, a national network. We work on addressing gun violence within the Black community, not Black on Black crime, touch your neighbor. We work on addressing decarceration, increasing the vote, making sure that police are not disproportionately killing folks in our communities. Live Free USA is a national network. We're in 20 different states, 50 cities, working to address these root causes, conditions of the worst conditions in our communities.
Marcel, tell us about your campaign. How can we learn?
So go to marcelforcongress.com and you can click on that donation link if you like. My plan is to repair Black America to fix all of America. Also, if you are in South Carolina, Chris Nellums, he is running for the State Commissioner of Agriculture. He wants to get Black Americans back into Black farming like we used to be before we were ran off. And if you want to support a Black-owned business, Bossville Farms, they have 80 acres and they sell hemp. And please support a Black American-owned business. So,
yes or no, can America be poverty free?
Quickly, yes, they can. The GI Bill took white Americans into the middle class overnight. They can do the same with Black Americans with reparations.
Dante, please talk to us about your book, Shouting in the Fire, an American Epistle.
Yeah, American Epistle. So it is my memoir and essays about the ways in which a young Black kid from South Carolina learns how to grieve himself, how to grieve the country, how to grieve his faith, and ultimately learn how to love himself and reach a sort of type of liberation in this world, and really a world that I desire for my children. So yeah, pick it up wherever books are found and support Black books and Black-owned bookstores, wherever Black-owned bookstores are found. Make sure you support your libraries and your schools and all those things.
See, I like to say support good books.
Oh, indeed. Not every book is a good book.
Don't have me read no Black book and it's full of, I don't want to read this hot mess. What I'm saying?
I tried my best. I tried my best.
Megan, please talk to us about the mission behind the Remedy Women's Retreat.
So the Remedy Women's Retreat is going to be held in October in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. And basically what it is we, for 4 days and 4 nights, we are going to be working on not only your mind, not just your body, but your spirit and your soul. I'm going to have a certified Reiki there. I'm going to have a yoga instructor certified, a breathologist. We are going to be talking about freeing from the pain, the guilt, and the shame of the past, and making sure that women are going back to being the nurturers of the family and of the community. Then I'm having a men's retreat after that, a family one and a couple one.
Excellent. So, and I want to ask you too, yes or no, can America be poverty free?
I would say no to that, because America is a business. And
that's a good answer. That's a good answer.
And when you speak of poverty, poverty is not just Black. There are poor white trash. There are poor Mexicans. There's poor all over.
Well, that's why I didn't specifically say black. I said poverty.
Right. So that's what
yeah.
I'm saying.
So I want to ask everyone, so put your thinking caps on, get your mind ready to work. I want you in one word, if you could erase poverty in America through your mindset, what word would create that? An America that is poverty free in one word. Dante?
Oh, that's tough.
I know.
For me, I would say equality. I think
equality. Okay. And I'd rather say in the world, poverty in the world. Pastor Mike?
Justice and inclusive.
All right. I already know your answer, Marcel, but go ahead.
Now, I'm going to say reparations.
Oh, okay.
Equity. I'm going to say equity.
Equity. All right. You're standing on Dante's side on this one. Megan, what word do you have that's controlling your mindset that would make this world poverty free?
Consistency.
Consistency. Well, thank you all for being consistent in your stance on the business of being Black when it comes to poverty being a mindset. That is the show. Thank you all for being on the business of being Black with Tammi Mack.
Thank you.